Hi, Liz Patten here in Maputo, Mozambique, and I've been asked by Sue's Tidy to record a little video testimony for you at ChaseFamilyChurch, just sharing how the Lord called me into missions. So we have to go back a long way, 40 years actually, when I was just 19, and I was studying French at London University, and as part of my course I had to do a year out in a French-speaking country. And I chose France because it was the nearest, and I hadn't really been anywhere very far away from home before. So off I went to France, and I'd been saved for about 5 years then, and I was just aware that working in missions overseas was like a closed door for me. It was just not something that drew me. In fact, the contrary. My idea was to finish my course at university, find a job, and just kind of settle down, I guess. So off I went to France, and I rented a room at the Baptist church in Tours, in the Loire Valley, very beautiful area. I'm sure some of you have been there. And I remember at one time they were planning a youth conference. That was quite early on in my time there. And I had quite a bit of free time really as a student, and so I asked the pastor if I could help with the preparations for the conference. And he said, yes, you can. Would you please make a banner? And he gave me this huge sheet or white cloth and 2 tins of paint, one red and one green. And he asked me to paint on the banner in very large letters the call of Isaiah. And I still remember it very, very well in French, because I was sprawled out on the floor with these 2 cans of paint making this enormous banner, which was then hung at the front of the church. And of course it's La voix du Seigneur dit, qui enverrai-je et qui ira pour nous? Je répondis, me voici Seigneur, envoie-moi. So who shall we send? Who will go for us? I replied, said the prophet Isaiah, here I am, Lord, send me. And so there I was, sprawled out on the floor with the cans of paint and the banner, and knowing very well in my heart that I didn't want to go anywhere. I just wanted to finish what I was doing, go home, graduate, and get a job. The conference came, and we were crowded out at our Baptist church there with young people who came from all over France. And guess what? The theme of the weekend was missions. And on the very last meeting, on the very last day, after I'd spent the entire conference looking at the banner that I'd made with the call of Isaiah, I remember that the 2 young guys who were leading the worship, had written the songs, very talented musicians, they decided to give a call to missions. And I remember that moment, I was just 19, when one of them said, if in the future, at any point, the Lord would want to call you to go and serve him overseas as a missionary, if you would be willing to say yes, stand up. And in that moment, I felt like I was in a corner with the Lord. And I knew that for me, it had to be a moment of surrender, because he's God and I'm not. And so in that moment, I stood up and I gave my will to the Lord. I was aware that it wasn't a moment of receiving a call or making a commitment, but it was a moment of surrender and saying, Lord, yes, I'm answering that question. If ever you want me to go, then yes, I will go. And the really interesting thing for me was that what happened after that conference was exactly what Paul describes in Philippians chapter 2, verse 13, where he says, for it is God who works in you to give you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. And God began to change the thing that I most dreaded that he would ever ask me. He began to change my heart so that actually became the thing that I most wanted to do. And he just filled me with a passion and a desire to be involved in missions. Now that was 40 years ago. I don't have time here to tell you what's transpired since, but if someone had told me at that time all the doors that the Lord would open for me and the opportunities that I would have from him to serve him in different places around the world, I'm ashamed to say I would be a little bit like Sarah, the wife of Abraham, when she laughed. Bless you. Bye now.